I woke up one day and I just thought, I can't keep doing this.
Because shoot me now. Is this what people do for a living for a long time?
I had to wait a long time to get here. Where's the respect? You don't know what I know. Why don't they just do it? I pay you every 2 weeks. God damn it. Why don't you just shut up and do it?
Am I going to quit? Am I going to sue? And I started to cry. Like my heart rate is escalating as I retell this story.
I felt like I betrayed myself. I felt like I betrayed these people. I'll never be their favorite person.
Right.
And the staff wanted a workshop on psychological safety, and the management wanted a workshop on accountability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability and shame and authenticity and all the things happening loud and at full volume in the workplace. And I just think a lot of people got hurt. Let me tell you a story. So I was working 12-hour days at an acute care hospital. Like I would get there in the morning before the physicians went on rounds, and I wouldn't leave until the last of the octogenarian audit and finance committee members would leave at 11 o'clock at night, right? And there were obscenely long days, and it felt like humanly important work. When you're in a hospital environment, like you tell yourself a story, which is people are sick here and I need to show up and I need to follow up and follow through and I need to push myself. And it infuses the whole culture of the place. But they're just burnout mills because you can't go like that. And I was there, and of course they're open 24 hours a day. You're often doing things like manager or director on call. And so you've literally got your phone by your bed waiting for the ICU to call and get your authorization. Can we, spend more money on A or B? And, it was a really, really stressful time in my life. I made it through 2 CEOs and a new hospital build, and I fell over. Yeah. I knew that I was just done. Yeah. And I woke up one day and I just thought, I can't keep doing this. I had a young family. My eldest kid's autistic, and I just wasn't being the kind of dad or even the kind of person I knew I needed to be. And, to this conversation around purpose, at no point did I say, gee, I hope one day I'll become, an executive on the senior team of a hospital. Never. That was never in the plan, never in the cards. I, just worked hard, and I'm a white guy with a lot of privilege, and I just fell my way up the corporate ladder, and there I was. And it was just not for me. So I quit. And the thing it was a big moment, and people thought I was pretty nuts. It's pretty hard to say goodbye to a hoop pension. It's tough, but I did. And I've never regretted it once. It was very unhealthy for me. And I had thought for a long time in the back of my mind, I should do consulting. I think I could do that. And so I hung out a shingle, and, under the sort of the general premise of how hard could this be? Right? And
so let's go back to my 12-hour hospital days.
Yeah. It didn't look that hard. And so, I just hustled and won some work, and this thing grew. And I, over the course of that next 10 years, learned a ton about myself, but mostly about my connection with this idea of purpose. And, the company that I founded, we only served nonprofit and charitable organizations across the country. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about just going off into the abyss and just letting go and trying something new. It was really an important time for you. How about you?
My entry into purpose is a bit dissimilar. And so, I came out in university in 94. I'll look at you. And my first job was in warehousing and distribution, right? Okay. And I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I was like, is this what people do for a living for a long time? Because shoot me now. There wasn't impact. Those words didn't exist. And I was like, and it was 12, because we were getting our products first on the shelf for Christmas, and it was still important to, to move product. And I was like, this is horrible. I'm dying here. Right. But it was a publicly traded company. I was well compensated. My mother was very proud of me, and I quit, and I started to work at a not-for-profit. And so she wasn't quelling, about me, at the dinner parties because her son had like working in not for profit. But I came alive and I found people and I found my own meaning. And
Yes.
it's a very, it's a traditional story, I think now, but there wasn't a lot of places to go for me at that point, right? Now the market is much more open, you get up, you start your app, and you create purpose and meaning. But back then I really only had one choice, at least how I thought was to go into the charitable world. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of meandered around and things got, opened up and I've had maybe 3 careers, Jonathan 1.0 was Gord, in the manufacturing distribution, and
Yep.
Gord 2.0 was, catching up with what impact was. And now it's Gord 3.0, which is like, I don't have to do impact in the charitable space. I could be much broader and I can work with people much broader because the landscape has changed, right?
Yep.
Like people see, like they don't look at structures as, oh, it's you do impact in the charitable structure. You can do
Yep.
impact and purpose, writ large. So
Yep.
I kind of want to be with people and I work with people who are like, look, there's people like, we didn't kill anybody. Okay, you guys hang out over there. In the middle is like, we're gonna do some good intentionally, and I kind of want to be on this side, which is let's transform some things. And so those are the folks who I kind of want to hang out with these days, who kind of see the world through my lens. And
Yeah.
that's a far cry from getting your product first on the shelf for Christmas.
That's a great story. I think it's interesting now. So I'm not in a dissimilar place. I also work with leaders and boards and executive teams really across quite a broad spectrum from, mid to large size companies to nonprofits and government. I'm also mostly looking for people that I resonate with, that I connect with, who share some common values and goals.
I want to get into those skills maybe that you think people should have learned long ago, that that keep people back, right? That time and time again, there's skills that they haven't learned.
Yep.
I'm gonna have a few stories.
Well, I think the most common one I see, and I'm sure you do too, is, and I have a joke about it, which is, remember that class you took on delegation? Like no one takes a class on delegation. It's really kind of a core function of management, and people just suck at it, right? They'll avoid all kinds of things to delegate. And so, the classic cycle, which everyone sort of knows about, is, I delegate a thing which the person experiences as a dump. I only give half the information that the person needs because it's so obvious to me, because I've done it so many times myself that it's in my head. I give it to them. They half complete it late. I go, no. And then I swoop in like a hero and I save the day. And I'm teaching the person how to half do something well, because deep down they know that I want to do it myself my way. And the cycle then perpetuates itself. And they wash up on my shores with that reoccurring pattern of behavior. And so the break for that for me is teaching people how to build agreements with people, slowing it all down.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
moving to a question and inquiry based curiosity around a project, and allowing people to build out with them, not to them or for them, but with them, how to go about constructing a project. And I'd say that's kind of the most common thing that I see. How about you?
I've got a personal story around it's listening. Like I didn't learn how to listen well until I was 35. I used to be a rock star, right? Like listening for facts and figures, and I could put them into my head and be the guy to say, okay, now what's next, and let's action that. And that took me far away.
Right.
I got to my consulting shop, right? And I swear for the first 3 months, I would walk out of the meetings, go, what the hell just happened? I had no idea. I couldn't take the meeting and like do it into my facts and figures. And I was like, oh my God, I'm incompetent. I'm going to get fired because I can't figure this out. And so there was somebody who was very nice to me. There was some trust there. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And she started to tell me, look, this is what you need to look for and listen for. Our CEO will speak last. Read the room on the body language. Look who's nodding. Look who's talking after. I mean, there were all sorts of like, there was like a map she was teaching. So like later on, like the framework that coaches will use is like, look, facts and figures is level 1, level 2 is emotions, and level 3 is values and beliefs. Or if you're a coach, level 1 is you're listening from their perspective, which isn't so helpful. Level 2 is from your perspective, which isn't so helpful. And level 3 is you're listening to the environment. Like, those are frameworks that I just didn't have.
Right.
You know, most of the time conflict comes when I'm working with people is around that they're only listening on that first level, right?
Yep.
So that skill to like figure out to listen to for values and beliefs and what treasure are people protecting, as Leanne Davies would say, who's a great consultant, like change the way I operated, right? I went from being the tactical guy to actually understanding, you know, what drives people. And so I can have those conversations. They don't teach it in school, right? That's just like they're not teaching delegation. We should start our own school, delegation, listening. I'm sure there's more, right? Things.
I also learned listening much later in life.
It's crazy, right?
It is sort of breathtaking. I got my 10,000 hours. I mentioned earlier, my eldest kid is autistic. And so she would just talk and talk and talk and talk. And she's memorized the internet. Like, it's just breathtaking what's going on in there. And so I moved from a place of reciprocity in conversation, hopefully, but probably as a young man talking way too much and being a know-it-all, to not being allowed to talk in a conversation.
That's super interesting.
For 5 or 6 hours every single day, because that's how much co-regulation she needed. So including last night, I go for long drives because that's how she stays calm. And so I learned how to say, tell me more. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And pick up threads. And then that just infiltrated into my work, and I realized it's really powerful. And so tools like mirroring and being able to, listen for the things in between the things or the things under the things is a skill that I developed in my private life that has completely, profoundly changed how I work.
Yeah, it's such a great story. I mean, I'm what really hit listening for 5 or 6 hours. Tell me more. I mean, that's training in and of itself, right? I mean,
It really was, and it was a gift. And I won't say it wasn't
hard.
It was hard. It was really, really hard. It took a long time. It takes a long time to let your ego go in a conversation, to not be able to contribute. So,
because we have so much to say.
Yeah, because what we do, of course, is we just sit in conversation, polishing the thing that we're going to say next, and not listening to what the person is saying. And so when you have no opportunity to say the next thing because it's not required and it's actually dysregulating for somebody that you love, you learn how to go, actually, probably what I was going to say it doesn't really matter that much. And I should really do a much better job of listening. And that's been a great gift for me.
Yeah. I think the listening skill, for leaders, right, it allows them, to uncover what's not being said and to make sense of the world, because people are afraid sometimes to say, I don't want to do that thing. Stop. They won't say that. They'll speak. And that's not just a polite Canadian thing. It's just they're protecting themselves, right? And so they're trying to, find ways into the conversation. And if you're not cued into like listening in on those levels, you're going to miss all of that, right? And it's going to go underground, right? So great leaders see that, right, and pull that out, and
they pay attention to where the tension is happening, and they're asking themselves questions like, "What's really going on here? What does this person need in this conversation right now?" And I use that all the time in my work, like
totally
when a client is really struggling with something, I'm like, what is really going on here? What are you really saying? What do you really need? So some things that I've learned in the last little while about meetings for sure, and about listening. I do a lot of work with Indigenous folks and Indigenous communities, and they construct meetings differently. And I can't tell you how much I've learned about and I've just become really self-aware about, my training. You show up, you got an agenda, you blast through it at all costs, like because time is money, right? And so like that's what you're doing. But where meetings go off the rails is when people disagree, where they disrespect one another, where they are talking at cross purposes, or they can't hear one another, when there's a low trust moment or a low trust environment. My experience of being around my Indigenous colleagues, especially around a board table, is that they go slow to go fast. So they do a long check-in and they spend time seeing and feeling where everybody is at in this moment.
A long
this
check-in.
day.
What is it? What does that look like?
It's like we go around the circle
Uh,
and we're like, how's everything? And we talk about
but like for real, right?
for real. It
Yeah.
takes 45 minutes to go around
Oh my
the
God, yeah.
room.
That's like 10 grand, you know? Like, I'm just kidding.
But you know how the meetings are way better
Right.
because everybody is attuned to where everybody else is at. And they know that this person's granny's sick and this person's kid has got the thing going on right now and this person's getting ready to go on vacation and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
And so we've done the relational work first and we're checked in and we're plugged in. And then when we get to the business end,
oh yeah, the table,
the table is set and you can get through it way better. And I've incorporated that into meetings.
But it's funny that you have to like talk about that as the thing to do, right? I mean, you have to build up the trust, get to know people, you know, before you can get to business. Like, I mean, I think I sort of inherently knew that. And so the things that
but we just don't practice it.
No, because like you come in and you're like, time is money, you know, and like, chop. But like, so
it's even worse online.
Yeah.
I think we're
even for sure.
More, we're even crisper in like, because we all get on the thing at the exact same moment and we know that we've all got to get off. Whereas if at least we were going into each other's offices, like we're going to wait, you know, we're still waiting for you to come in. So we're talking about the soccer practice and the stuff. And like, we're doing a bit of that relational work. And that's just been killed through some online stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you just need to construct it.
No, but like it's very hard to, you know, to think about how to create those conditions, right? So that when you get to the business part, it's really good, right? And so like I've done a couple of retreats, and the retreats that I've done where we go for dinner the night before, like it is exponentially better outcomes, right? Because you've had, you don't need booze, but like people know they've done the 45 minutes in a relaxed environment. And so now I'm like I'm listening, like if that's not part of what you want, you know, out of this, because you're hiring me for that thing, but you don't want to do this other thing, I'm not sure I'm your guy, right? Because there's lots of people who can walk in and do the 6 hours, but you know, I'm about what's before and what comes after, right? Because that middle part just is not going to stick if you don't.
So you consider that to be like as important as the work itself, because it is a part of the work.
I'm thinking I'm not taking those jobs if we don't, if that's not part of it, right?
I love that, and I think it's.
I might lose some work, but
you probably won't though. You'll probably just find more of the right people.
Yeah, it's a calling card because. Yeah, I mean, we've just seen it time and time again. Like it plays to that trust and to that ability to listen. And that's cool stuff.
What are you seeing in your practice around leadership these days? What's shifting? What's happening out there?
Yeah, I think people are coming, like they're more confident in talking about. I mean, we talked about purpose before, but their personal purpose or their personal mantra, and you know, how does it line up against what the company is doing, right? And so in the not-for-profit space, it's really interesting because, you know, from the outside you think like a purpose or meaning is baked into to those charities. They're not. There's a lot of tension still, right? Like a ton of tension. Like, why aren't charity leaders talking more about DEI? They're staying quiet because they're protecting their nut or whatever. So I'm seeing a lot more of like people like being really uncomfortable, even though the not-for-profit is doing this great work. They're not being loud enough. They're not being strong enough, and it's rubbing their personal tension and that's new, at least from what I've seen.
I think in my practice, what I see a lot of is folks that are, you know, somewhere around, you know, in their 50s, let's just say, they waited a long time to get the top job, right? Because it was, you know, like I'm a Gen Xer, and so they just, the jobs weren't available because there's this huge, you know, group of boomers that took a long time to retire. And so we waited a long time, right? And so we were kind of like more than prepared, over prepared, because there wasn't a seat. Then you finally get the quote unquote corner officer. You find yourself in the C-suite or some equivalent, and the folks that are that have come up behind you came up under a different set of rules. There's different things at play. Obviously, there's the pandemic and post-pandemic and how that shifted and changed the workforce, and I still think it's still filtering its way through. And there's some resentment there that I notice. Like,
tell me about that.
Yeah, like I think it sounds a bit like I had to wait a long time to get here. Where's the respect? You don't know what I know. Why don't they just do it? I pay you every 2 weeks. God damn it. Why don't you just shut up and do it? Right. Like I had to. So there's quite a lot of that. Right. Like I went through.
I was been through that stuff.
Yeah.
Go through it too, even though I didn't like it.
What do you mean you want a new title? You've only been in this role for 9 months. Right. And so there's, I hear people my age talk about entitlement a lot. And that, I like to redirect. I'm like, let's just have a conversation about what's sitting underneath that. These are high-performing, overeducated folks that have been graded externally, themselves and the world. They put a lot of pressure on themselves. They want a lot of feedback, and they want a lot often, and they want a lot of advancement. And so, there's these stratified organizations now that have micro levels of advancement because of this. Right? We're just like layering in extra layers of associate.
In the charity world, there's managers with no people. There's coordinators with nothing. I mean, it's
totally.
and associate vice president. I mean, if you of nothing, right?
Yeah. And lots of solopreneurs that are CEOs, right?
That's her clip.
And scene. That's funny. Yeah. So I think like we're all guilty of it, but there's a lot of resentment there. What I try and do in those situations is ask them to put themselves in the shoes of the folks that are a few layers down in their organization. And the social contract's largely been broken for young people. They're coming out of school with a lot of debt. They have, 2 and 3 degrees. They're entering the workforce. They can't buy a house. It is a whole different set of circumstances. If it was hard for us, and it was hard-ish, it is near impossible now unless, this massive transfer of intergenerational wealth happens more quickly. It's going to be really hard. And so the promise isn't there for success. And so how do we deal with that as leaders? Like you can't have the same set of expectations that were once there for us. And so I think that has to shift, and I support people to let go of some of those
and I think that
precious beliefs.
That's a whole other thing for how you let go, for sure, right? And I think those kinds of problems that you see have bigger implications, right? For like civic society or civil society. Like, people aren't going to want to go there or aren't going to want to contribute if they can't get those results or can't get those promotions. Like in the charitable sector, like I tell everyone, run away. You don't want to be ED. Like it is the worst job in the world, right? And there are many people who are maybe 10 years older than me who are retiring. There's nobody coming up, to backfill. And so the role that charities play in delivering purpose or delivering impact, like I think there's a problem, right? Because there isn't the human capital and the leaders coming in underneath that. There's a huge drop off of the 60-year-olds who are going to retire. No, people are not clamoring to step in between. And I think that is hugely problematic for civil society, right? And all the great work around. Look, we talked about you can find purpose elsewhere, but like we're a pretty big sector right now.
But and folks are drawn to working in the charitable sector early on through wonderful heartfelt reasons. And the burnout level is really high.
Super high.
And the return gets them pretty like there's not good money.
They're not well paid.
They're not well paid.
And your employees are hard at you for not saying the right things at the right time in the right way, right? Government cuts off. There's very little that's attractive, Which means, look, there's work for guys like me, you know,
Yeah.
to support them, you know.
So here you are today, doing the work you're doing, but I'm really interested in transitions in people's lives. Tell me about maybe one of the biggest transition points in your career. What led to it? Help us out.
The biggest thing for sure in the last 15 years was well, I was put on a performance improvement plan, and you know, the setup was like the project had just ended,
Okay.
and I thought it went swimmingly.
Yeah.
I thought my clients thought it went swimmingly. I thought my peers, you know, thought it went swimmingly.
Yeah.
And I got called into the meeting with the principals, which I thought was going to be a celebratory meeting, right? And like my heart rate is escalating as I retell this story. And it wasn't. It was, you know, it was the proverbial, like, I got ambushed, right? And it was just like
God.
on TV where things and like I couldn't focus in on them, and I had to go off camera, and literally, like, I can't tell you what they said because like I almost blacked out, right?
Wow.
And so I was like at this moment, and I was like, oh my God, am I gonna blow up my career, right? Because I'm gonna, like, it was insane. It was preposterous from where I was standing at the time. Like,
Right.
am I gonna quit? Am I gonna sue? Am I
Yes.
gonna publicly shame on, you know, like all these things? So I didn't do any of that, and I hired my coach, thanks to Halia, and we worked through it. And it took me 3 long months of hard emotional work.
Wow.
And I remember where I was. I was running. I was down at the TTC yards at Coxwell and Eastern when I finally had my breakthrough. And I started to cry, you know, as I did. And I was, you know, my mantra was like, I'm good enough. Like, I know I'm good enough. Like that's what finally came through, right? And I could go off to the other side. But it was, look, it's embarrassing. I mean, there's all kinds there's shame, but I tell you, and I say this, and my wife tells me, you're lying to yourself. Like, there was a gift that moment, you know, that I couldn't see a fuck at the time.
Of course.
But I learned on 2 big things. I learned how to tell my own story and never leave it into anyone else to make up the story. So I'm a great narrator of my story now. And look, it sort of told me, like, I think I'm ready to move on. Like, I'm ready to, like, Gord 3.0. I'm ready to plant. Like, it took me another 2 years, but that's fine.
Oh yeah.
But like, cause like it just, I couldn't see it, but it was so like that. It hurt so much. It really just did.
Yes.
And so I'm here from that story.
Thank you for sharing that. Yep. I'm sure there's lots of people listening to this that connect to that in so many ways. Performance improvement plans are one of the bluntest, most ridiculous tools that we have. But more importantly, those moments in life that are teachers, but in the moment, they're like the visceral way you described, that was so somatic, and how it was in your body, the blacking out part, like, you know, so often leaders don't realize what is happening to the person across from them.
I don't think the people on the other end
They wouldn't have
a clue.
No.
And it would have been, and I know this for a fact, crestfallen, heartfelt, to know that that was the impact, right?
That's
because I know that wasn't their intent, and I can say that with grace now. Like, I know they wanted me absolutely to be a better leader, and I was better afterwards, but like, it was so hard to see it at the time, right? And you know, the challenge in life, I think, and for me at that, like, how long was it going to take? You know, was it going to take a week, 3 months, 10 years? Was I going to, or was it, and if it takes 10 years, it was over for me. Right. And so like, I'm so happy that it only took 3 months. Right.
Yeah.
And I use that again. I tell that story to my clients, that like, I show vulnerability, but that was, you know, you opened with, what was a transformative moment? I think that counts for me.
That's huge. That is huge. I'll share with you my similar moment from the last 15 years. So I was in the middle of my journey at the company that I founded. and we were scaling and growing really, really well. Things were just year over year, 15% growth, doing great, new clients. We couldn't get people quick enough. And so I was hiring aggressively, and we were hiring into growth. Like the contracts were coming. I was just the sales machine, and we were delivering, and everybody was really, really on track. And we hit a point where we were leading up to a provincial election, and many of our clients were provincially funded, and they all just took a beat at once. Anything that was currently like out for they all just went, you know what? And they all just froze, because it was looking like the current government was going to lose, which in fact, of course, happened. So 6 months out from the writ being dropped, all the bureaucrats just said, can it, hold on to the dough. And so our business development pipeline just dried up.
You have all these, you have the big head count now.
And I've got a head count. And I could feel, my metaphor for it was like I could feel the nose pointing down, and I was just desperately doing everything I could to pull it up. And, we were picking up steam. Hemingway has that famous line in Sun Also Rises where the two guys are sitting across from each other, and one says, "How did you go bankrupt?" And the other guy says, "Slowly, then quickly." And that's good. Yeah, it's exactly how it feels, right? Like you're just in this profitable endeavor, and some external factors happen, and suddenly you're tanking, and you're picking up speed as you're heading down. And every week that goes past is
so stressful
and incrementally, and it's your dough, right? Like nothing focuses the mind like your own money, right? And so I was 100% owner of this company, and it was my money. And so I was just watching it, and I could see, I could see where the dotted line was headed. So I waited until the very, very, very last minute, because workplace culture and a B Corp and all the important things, and I had to do some layoffs. And it was so heartbreaking. I felt like I betrayed myself. I felt like I betrayed these people that I had made promises to. They had joined the company. They had committed all in, their own personal social capital in. And it was such a violent, it was a kind of violence, I guess.
That's a good word.
I don't know how to describe it any other way. It ruined those relationships. I have subsequently mended them to the degree to which we can see each other and everything is okay. But it's so not tough. I'll never be their favorite person, and understandably, totally understand that. But I learned a ton about risk taking, and it's fun when it's going up. It's fun to throw fuel on the fire, but we did not have the capital underpinning that company to be able to grow as fast as we were growing. We didn't have enough experience to be growing as fast as we were growing. And I learned it the hard way. And, coming out of that, we diversified. We did a bunch of things, right, to make sure that it wouldn't happen again. But it was
the people side was the part that I thought was that you turned a bit red. And would you do something different? Would you, if it happened again? I mean,
I didn't have a choice. Like I didn't have any money. At some point the checks would have bounced, right? Like it was only 3 months away from the checks bouncing. So that wasn't going to happen. So, I had to do what I had to do. It was more that I made mistakes further upstream than that, which it's hard to see, when the world is good and everything around you. So I think, my lesson for that was just like, know where you are in your business cycle, and have a war chest, have more diversification, all the things that I think I help other consultant, as a consultant that I help other companies with all the time. I feel like
you had the cobbler of the worst shoes.
But I've been saying that stuff my whole maybe career. But now I say it from a place of, because it really, really sucks if you have to go through it.
Sorry. So Jonathan, if you could do it again, on the people side, would you do something differently?
I think what I learned through it is that while we had very open and transparent books, when it comes to people's own individual lives, they tell themselves whatever they need to hear around their own security. And so it didn't actually matter that we had open books. It didn't matter that they knew we weren't winning enough business. It never landed for them. And that to me means that it's on the leader, and the mistakes are mine, right? I grew the company too quickly, and we didn't have what we needed in the background to be able to weather that kind of, market storm. And I made commitments to those people. And I think if I was going to do it again, I would do what we ended up doing after that really harsh dip, which was grow more conservatively, diversify our revenue base, diversify our offerings, and build a far more resilient, more conservative approach to growing that company, which is, I sold it 3.5 years ago in a management buyout. And I mean, we grew, much more than we had at that particular, moment that I've just described. But it's really tough. And I think as leaders, we go through those things, and that's what we grow from. Let's talk about community, Gord. I think that in our careers and the folks that we support, whether it's the organizations or themselves as leaders, they have a connection now to this idea, this concept of community that wasn't maybe in play in the same way as it was 20, 30 years ago, because work was work and outside of work was outside of work. And now there's all this commingling that goes on. Tell me, what have you noticed around community building, especially in the not-for-profit sector, eh?
Yeah, I think people come, and I gave some of this before. I think people come with a more developed sense of values or purpose, their own thing, what drives them. Whereas like you kind of shelve that before, right? You came to do your work, and you did your community on the side, and you did your, there's a lot more, and I don't think this is earth-shattering stuff. There's a lot more commingling, right? And so, that the idea of what you want out of work, just people are a lot more vocal, right? And that's causing tension. But
so what's the downside though? If you bring your full self to work, what's the risk?
There are competing dynamics at work, right?
Profitability,
and we just talked about, right? And so I just think you can ask, and you can you need to find ways in to bring your full self to work that works for everyone. And I'm just not sure there's that ability or their skills to have those nuanced conversations. Hey, I'd really like to bring my dog. I mean, this is like bring my dog. Well, I'm not sure that, we can do that because someone's got a deathly allergy or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you
so I mean, for me, I think that there's this want, this desire for people to bring their full selves to work.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a huge risk to that most people are not willing to pay, which is I might get fired.
With my full self.
So you're not just rejecting my skills as a mid-level manager, you're actually rejecting all of me.
That's interesting.
And that is going to hurt way, way, way deeper.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to demarcate some of yourself, like I think that
so you're making your case not to.
I'm making the case don't. Yeah. I don't bring none of it. I just don't bring all of it.
No, yeah, like
leave
75%.
Yeah, like I think there's a percentage that we could figure out that might be optimal. I don't know what it is, but I think that there was a move there. Thanks, Brene Brown. To and I love her work. Don't get me wrong, but have vulnerability and shame and authenticity and all the things happening loud and at full volume in the workplace. And I just think a lot of people got hurt because people were let down, because people, not all therapists, right? Every manager doesn't have skills that,
equipped, right?
And they're not, and it's not their job.
No.
And so, if you want to show up and you over disclose and you
in a way that's super uncomfortable.
Yeah. And so that's an awful lot for your average.
It's such an interesting,
manager.
You're rejecting me. You're rejecting my full self. Right. And so what are those, maybe this is the way in, like,
so then, and you're putting somebody on a performance improvement plan, right? And it's not just their work that you're trying to performance manage. They're interpreting that as you don't actually like who I am.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you've got lots of intersections and or other, like put a DEI lens on that for a second, and suddenly you've problematized a whole thing that actually was that the person's coming in late and they're delivering substandard work too often and they need support. That's normal, totally normal. But they're hearing that as I'm not worthy. And I think we've done a whole lot of disservice. I just think we've overcorrected.
Yeah.
And we need to kind
so
of
the elastic's got to pull back.
I think so.
Yeah, and maybe like I was trying to think of like what are my non-negotiables when I come into work? Like, I mean, that's like
Totally.
what are the things that are most important, and like what are the other things that I will
Yep.
reluctantly or whatever leave behind, right? Until the organization is ready to expand, right? It's so challenging, I think, as a leader to help navigate that.
It really is.
I don't know how.
And you got to meet people where they're at. And for some people, they would want a lot of privacy, and a lot of people would want a lot of disclosure. So, I mean, I am in favor of, employees being able to choose where those boundaries are for themselves. But there are relationships at work. And you're just one person in the multifaceted relationship, and there are consequences to choices, etc. And so you have to be able to own those things and negotiate them. And that's where the skill sets aren't strong, is to be able to navigate those really complex
come in and
dynamics.
So one employee, went to the boss and said, "I'm really uncomfortable with so-and-so whose midriff was showing."
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you know, but like midriff showing is very common these days in the workplace. The women don't have shirts. She was very uncomfortable with the midriff being shown.
Okay.
So what was the boss to do? So the boss tried to navigate this tension. And so the midriff person got wind of it and said, actually, I'm a strong feminist. And so this quickly, escalated into the camps of like, I'm uncomfortable. Aren't you going to protect me versus aren't you a feminist? Like, it was very difficult. In the end, as you would imagine, the person who laid that claim, found a way to exit gracefully. But I mean, so complex, right? Around bringing your full self, right?
This
Now,
stuff
I don't have a neat answer for that, right? But I wonder if that's an example of, what were the non-negotiables on those sides, and could there have been a more nuanced conversation? I don't know.
I'm so curious. At any point, did the two of them sit in a room?
No, they did not.
That's where
No, because the business owner, as you might imagine, sought legal counsel, and then it just went off the rails. Once you start putting in that thing.
Totally.
So it was.
So what tools do we have to be able to get people to have hard conversations that are a little uncomfortable, that's far enough upstream that stuff doesn't escalate? And building those skills is so important.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's so important, because you could imagine, if those two people had either the opportunity, because they were kind of asked to work it out by themselves, or at least take a go at working it out. Maybe they can't, and that's fine. But like, it sounds like they weren't even given the opportunity. I think it's really, like, this stuff is really, really tough. I'll tell you a story that I had a while back. A company asked me to come in, and they said, we need a workshop, Jonathan. And we asked the staff what they wanted the workshop on, and we asked management what they wanted a workshop on. And the staff, you probably know where this is going. The staff wanted a workshop on psychological safety, and the management wanted a workshop on accountability.
Oh my God.
So I'm like,
disaster.
I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I thought about it. I'm like, it's the same thing. It's the same. Think about it all the way through to the end. It's the same thing. If I'm safe, I'm accountable. If you're safe, you're accountable. If we're both safe, we're both accountable.
Nice.
And so I ended up taking Amy Edmondson's book and a bunch of stuff on accountability in the workplace and creating a workshop that I think nobody liked.
Yeah. Well, that means it was successful.
Because I didn't weaponize either side of it, right? I think it landed, and I do actually genuinely believe like it was good for me, because I was forced to think about both of those topics in a new way, and that's a lovely thing about doing the kind of work we do is that you're constantly thinking and being challenged, and your instincts aren't always right, and you get to learn and continue to read, and I'm grateful for all of
Sounded
that.
you had an elevated client on that one for sure. How do you stay grounded? Like it's a really loud and complicated and nasty world right now, right? So how do you stay grounded, Jonathan, with through all of this?
I rely on a lot of the tools that I support my clients with.
Mm.
I think about self-regulation a lot. I spend a lot of time asking myself questions like, what's going on here for me? Where am I at? Why am I behaving the way I'm behaving? Oh, I try to notice what's coming up for me as I'm
Are you
uh,
successful at noticing?
yeah, mostly I am.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Like I have come a long way in the last 10 years.
Mm.
Like I've done a lot of work on myself, a lot of therapy,
Mm.
and I think I'm better at it now,
Mm.
and I'm better at noticing when I'm getting dysregulated, or I'm more curious than I am reactive when I find something come up. And so I feel equipped to support other leaders with those things because I'm better at it myself. I'm not perfect, but I also understand it's an ongoing journey of noticing. Not there's no destination in this work. So,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
every day that you notice is a good day, I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah,
moment,
yeah,
like
yeah. So that's all good stuff. And I mean, it's just also really hard. Like, I mean, we can use euphemisms like with everything that's going on in the world right now. Like we have fascist governments, and it is really complicated what's happening. I have American clients, and they
yeah.
are really struggling. I mean, I just had a sea of apologies, when it
Yeah,
first
yeah, yeah,
started,
yeah.
these sort of
Thanks, buddy.
these embarrassed emails saying it's not me. And I think it's tough. I think it's really, really hard and really complex. And I try to operate from a neutral noticing perspective, and I try to not be judgy on things. Even if I might not personally agree with whatever's happening, people bring politics into work now. People
Yeah,
bring
yeah, sure.
all of that stuff in, and I'm okay with it. I think it's inevitable, and it's more about how do we react and respond to those things than the fact that it should stay at home or something. Like I just think
Yeah.
that that's just not real. So
So I'm hearing a
that's
lot about
that
like the
that's how I
noticing
do it.
skill that you've developed in the last 10
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, I have some of that for sure. And like, I notice it quicker, name it, and then try to shift for
Yep.
sure. But
Yep.
I think I want to go like in another direction, which is like it. I knew when I got into manufacturing, and distribution, that wasn't the thing, and I needed more purpose, right?
Mm,
But
mm.
I, and I can talk today, having a very clear sense of like I want social change in the world, but it was a slow burn to get there, and I
Mm.
um it was a slow burn to get there. Like I remember working with my coach, or I remember feeling inadequate because I would look at my brother who was a marketing guy his whole life, or my other brother who was an entrepreneur. Like they had their thing, they had their lanes, and I didn't. And I was like waffling and I was the black sheep in the family. They were all
Mm.
entrepreneurs, and I was the poor sucker, like slugging it out. And I remember trying to trying to find my thing that they all had, right?
Mm.
Which keeps them grounded. And I was like, okay, I'll go look at all the social service agencies and or healthcare, and then when that didn't work, okay, well, let's go look. Maybe it's newcomers, maybe it's youth, maybe like maybe
Right.
it's seniors, and like it was a valiant effort to try to find the thing, and I never found the thing until I finally, I would say 5 years ago, like I have like a little blurb chart which is like do good in the world, and
Yeah.
I have other blurbs about how I want people to think about me after they work with me. What
Mm.
kind of, what kind of lifestyle they're on. I think money's important.
Yeah.
Um, what's the energy and the values? And it's
Yep.
taken me a long time to like hold on to that idea of like what's important to me. And
Yes.
so I can get caught up in the noticing and the naming it, but I have to like, well, why am I in this game again? Like, well, and
Mm.
I finally am able to kind of go, look, after 20 years, it's about doing good in the world, and here's my version of that, right? And so
Yep.
I I brought it today just to remind me of like why I'm
Oh,
sitting
that's
at this
lovely.
table,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
to do this kind of work, right? So it was a longer answer to.
No, that's great, mate. I last year my my word of the year. Do you do that?
Yeah,
Do you do
yeah,
a
that's
word of
cool.
the my word of the year last year was enough. And I just sort of carried it around with curiosity. Like, what does enough mean to me? Uh, how do I reach it? When am I enough? All the things around
Oh,
enough.
there's so much there. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's tons, and it was a really juicy one, and I genuinely like spent a lot of time with that word last
Yeah.
year, and a lot of it for me came back to something I've just been sort of increasingly doing more of, which is I actually do have enough. And so, what do I do with what's left over? Or what do I do with what's next? And for me, that's supporting other people around me. And I try to find, um, I try to find folks to support either through my paid work or I find people that I just really admire that are not where I'm at in the stage of their career.
But
And
that's so
or
cool that enough, word got you to. I mean,
it
maybe it
did.
was there anyways, right? Like I have
Yeah,
enough.
maybe it just sort of like focused it for me
Kinda gave a
last
framework to
year,
kinda
but
go, "Look,
yeah,
I can
like
give more to others," or whatever.
yeah.
That's
So
totally
it,
cool.
it feels that feels like the stage that I'm kind of in right now. It's sort of like not pulling the ladder up behind me, right? It's like looking for opportunities to put it back down and to
Another good metaphor.
I get into rooms that lots of people can't get into. And so
Yeah.
if I get into the room, who am I letting in behind me? Somebody that is exactly like me or somebody different? And I
I like that
hopefully I've
shopping
done a
ladder
decent
metaphor.
yeah,
That's cool.
hopefully I've done a decent job of that and will continue to try to do a good job of that going forward because that speaking of values they're mine and that matters to me
Yeah.
a lot. If you were going to leave folks with one or two things to think about, what would they be?
Yeah, I think today's conversation sort of reminded me like it's okay. It's gonna work out. Take some time, right?
Mm,
You're gonna get there. Like it's okay. And I think that be open mantra. There's a lot of conversation about listening and curious and be open, right? Like I think
mm-hmm.
you can walk through so many more doors. I think those are my two big ones from today.
Love
How
that.
about you, Jonathan? What are your takeaways?
My takeaways are find good people to have good conversations with in your life. I'm really glad we met, Gord.
Yeah, yeah.
On the internet, didn't we? More or less on LinkedIn.
Yeah, like I
We
took
met on LinkedIn.
it was LinkedIn. I
Is
took a
this true?
flyer,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you invited the conversation. I was like, awesome, this guy's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
So I
And I
I
was
love the
right.
fact that from different cities and we find ourselves in yet a third city
Yeah, it's
having
funny.
this conversation to me means
That's good.
find good people, put the work in, and
Mm,
create community and create networks,
mm.
and actually activate them and follow through. Like, we both drove for a lot of hours to get here
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
and I don't know about you, but like I had a moment this morning. I'm like, there's other things I could be doing, and but I'm like, I couldn't be
Nice.
happier. Couldn't be happier to be sitting here with you today and Mo and in this beautiful space. So yeah,
This is the
feels
Mutual
great.
Admiration Society.
Nice.
That's it for sure.
Nice. Cheers.